All right, let's get this show on the road. Hi there, welcome. My name is JD from Studio 2105. Welcome to Direct Access MixStream, and this is a brand new episode. This is episode 46, number 46 of MixStream. Right, so it's been a while since I've done one of these, right? The last one I think I did was probably more than a month ago. So I do apologize, right, to all my subscribers and, all the regular people who tune in, who always expect, the live streams to be done every 2 weeks. Usually, I always aim to do the mix streams, right, every 2 weeks, setiap 2 minggu, right, around that. But, sometimes projects take, a lot of big projects and a lot of stuff comes by that takes precedence, lah, all right? So priorities need to be there, but I always make sure that I have some other content for you, okay? So, first of all, I want to welcome everyone who is in the live chat right now. We have, right, Mr. Chobib, Album Chobib himself, right, who is the featured artist, and also Naz Kafli, right, all right, or Naz as we're going to call him. He is also the singer and the vocalist on this track as well. A little more background on this track later on, okay? Right. So who else in the live chat? I just want to give a shout out. Okay, Shafiq Sube says, hi JD, Super Tikus, right, okay, right. And of course, Miss Ali Tan. Ali Tan is also, thank you for tuning in, Ali. Right, Ali is also, right, one of the artists, right, one of the singers that is on this project, not on this song, right, on another song, but in this album project lah. So right, who else we got there? Zaidi, Roland, says Hadir, and alright, okay. So this is everyone that's here. Very cool. If you're watching this right now, right, during the live chat, I do thank you so much, right? There is a live chat session. Please, I would love to interact with you. If there's any questions, any comments, right, about what you're hearing or about what you're seeing, please, right, type that in there. I will check it out and I'll always get down to your questions. I'll try and answer them to the best of my ability, okay? Right. So if you are watching this either right now live or maybe you're watching this in the replay, all right, I really want to welcome you and appreciate you for this. If you're not yet a subscriber, please do click down on the subscribe button down below. Please do leave a like as well if you found this informative, if you found this a little bit entertaining, right, and to share this as well with your friends, okay, right? Let them know all about it. And before the live stream, I had a little chat, right? So I explained a little bit of the background of what, right, all these MixStream live streams are about. It's to highlight and sort of showcase one little part of the whole process of the making of all of the songs that you hear on radio, or you hear on stream, or you hear on YouTube lah. All right. So let's not delay too much. I don't want to keep it too long. But first of all, maybe a quick background. I mentioned that one of the reasons why I haven't been doing a lot of live streams this past month, especially around bulan 6 in June, and all because I was very busy with this project. Okay, so this project, right, is it is Chobib's, right, upcoming brand new album, right? So a little bit of the background, you can actually watch it in the description. You can actually check it out in the description below. Okay, this is Chobib is a extraordinary musician, right? His discography, his background, history goes back decades, man. So this is one of the songs that's featured tonight that's going to be coming up on his album. The title of his track is called Walau Seketika. So this is a rock, like a kind of semi-pop rock song, right? And it features, right, the vocal talent of Mr. Naz, right? Okay, Naza, right, who is also there in the live chat also. Okay, so a quick background, right? So there are a couple of other tracks as well, as I mentioned, right? One of the other singers as well, Ali, is also in the live chat. Thank you so much. But this album really features, right, quite a number of some of Malaysia's, right, most amazing and legendary musicians, right? On this track alone, right, in the project, we had drums by Louis Pergasam, bass, right, by David Yee, who are also known as Awa, okay? Abu Chobib himself, of course, on all the guitars, then the programming, and now we also had the backing vocals, and lead vocals tonight is, right, Nazar, okay, right? One more thing before I start, I know there's always all of these things before we get straight into the live stream. One of the things that I want to highlight is that one of the ways to sort of support okay, some of our local artists in this way is this live stream is actually, and this whole MixStream program that I have is one of the ways that you can support. So if you actually check it out right on top of the text here, okay, right, so it says there, use code MixStream and become a patron at www.patreon.com/studio2105. So what is this Patreon, right? Patreon is actually a subscription. It's actually like a crowdfunding website where you can go and support your favorite creators, okay? So I have my Patreon page here, patreon.com/studio2105. If you go there, if you sign up, right, and there are different tiers of subscription. You have everything from as low as from around $3 a month, all the way to the VIP, right, which is $10, 10 USD a month, right? And if you subscribe, right, if you become a patron, 50%, right, of what the revenue that's earned from your subscription is going to go towards the featured artist, okay? So it's just one way of supporting our local artists, lah. There are lots of perks and special benefits. I won't bore you, won't talk too much. You can always check it out at the website, okay? Patreon.com/2210. So, without further ado, okay, dah cukup, alright? Enough of all the business talk out of the way. Let's get down to the real action lah. So, first of all, okay, we have the tracks here. Let me just outline it for you. You have here, these are all the drums, okay? All the drums. You have bass, have piano, pads, you have some acoustic guitars, electric guitars, both clean and also distorted guitars, some strings, and lastly vocals and backing vocals, okay? So quite a straightforward sort of instrumentation for a pop rock kind of arrangement. So first things first, when you approach a mix, is that you don't necessarily want to go and dive into straight away jom kita EQ the kick, jom kita go and EQ this and compress this and compress that. It's always good, all right, to always look at the big picture first, and that means pulling together a rough mix. So right, this song, because it was recorded here, so everything is kind of already been balanced and mixed along as we go lah. Setiap kali, every time if we are recording or mixing, we are always trying to balance things in context to listen to how the final product is. So this is actually the rough mix of where the song was at the last and the later stage of where it was, right? So I've pulled it up. We want to take a overall big listen first, okay? Because we want to check out, we want to pay attention to, how's the song arrangement like? We want to listen to, where do the parts come in? Where does the lead parts come in? Where does the backing vocal come in? Where parts mana yang kita need to highlight? And you take notes, okay? Right, so if you are not a mixing engineer, it's very useful maybe during this process of listening, right? To take notes. I take mental notes, so I sort of, doing this in a while, so for me, it's good enough for me to take mental notes lah. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a full listen to the entire track. This is a rough mix of the track. Walau Seketika, I'll give a little bit of commentary as well, okay? So let's go. Rough mix time. So drums starting first. Okay, and there's this little guitar intro lick. The piano does this little interesting run as well, and vocals. Awesome. Just acoustic guitar and a bit of piano. This goes into the bridge, pre-section of the verse. Pads come in. Some guitar fills. So arrangement starts building. You see the vocals as well. Keeps building as, and the payoff is coming. The chorus is coming. Nice little lick on the bass. This is an awesome vocal delivery by Naza, man. Wait till you get to the second part of the song where he hits even higher notes. Solo. Then let's go to this attacks. Second chorus. And big entry. The backing vocals. Fade it down. And we're not done yet. There's more. And this takes it to the skies, man. All right. Okay, and the rest of the part of the song. All right, okay, and then the rest of the part of the song is instrumental. Okay, so we're not gonna take too long about it. So, okay, first step. Listen to the rough mix, get the feel of how the song is, right? Listen to what the arrangement is like, then you know where the parts then are supposed to come in, what needs to be highlighted lah. So, okay, now we got that out of the way. Let's start with first things first. Let me just acknowledge a couple of things in the chat. Chobib just says, hi Naz and Ali. Naz says, hi everyone. Super Tico says, nice song. All right, right. Thank you very much, right? Credit, right, goes to the songwriter, right? Abang Chobib and Kak Min. Okay. And Fami, the mix engineer, hello. Right, says, hi JD, guys, get your headphones out. Beats are allowed. Okay. Right, this is all our audio engineer jokes, right? We're very cool. So, thanks, right? Thanks for tuning in, man. So, let's start with the kick first of all. Now, one important thing which I kind of always harp on, and if you watch this live stream, you always know that I always do this as my first step. So I start off with the kick drum. Yeah, everyone always starts with the kick drum, but there's actually a very, very good reason why. Because I'm trying to set my initial levels. I'm trying to get my gain staging correct. And why is that important? Because first of all, number one, of course, you do not want to be clipping your master bus. You don't want your audio to clip. Second of all right, you also don't want your mix level to be too low in the case where later on during the mastering stage, you introduce noise issues. Okay, if it's too low, you bring up when everything goes up during mastering, even the noise level, so noise floor also goes up lah. But very importantly, the third one, right, the third reason why is so that it ensures that I have calibrated and consistent monitoring levels here where I'm sitting right in front of my speakers. I actually did a video on that on my YouTube channel. So again, once again, please do subscribe, okay? Do check it out. There is that video. It's called how I, or is it like it's an easy way to set, all right, mix levels, okay? So, okay, do check that out. I have a detailed explanation of the process, but you'll see how I do it. Okay, so let's take a listen now to the kick drum first of all. So there are actually two tracks on the kick. There's a kick in and a kick out. So the kick in is an Audio Technica ADM 250. That's a dynamic microphone. But the kick out, there is an outer microphone, right? This is an Audio-Technica 4050. So this one is a condenser, right? So this one is placed a little bit further out just to capture a little bit more of the resonance and the low end boom. The one that's inside captures a little bit more of the the beater attack as well. So let's take a look at the kick. Let me pull up first of all the mix console so that you can see it. Here we go. All right. So kick in, kick out, and let's just listen to it. All right. So bear in mind again, this is already set to a rough mix. So let's listen. Okay, very cool. All right. Okay. So what I'm trying to aim for is actually I'm trying to aim for so that the kick drum hits and peaks at minus 12 dBFS on my master bus. Okay, so let's see. You might not be able to see where my master is, so I will pull up this window over here, and there you go. You should be able to see it here. Right there, there's the master. Okay, right. It's a little hard to see. Okay, just pay attention to the master here. Okay, so let's play the kick drum. Okay. So some of it's going to peak at about minus 14, which is fine. Let's go to maybe a louder section of the song. Let's go towards the end of the song, maybe when it gets a little louder. Let's check it where it peaks. Yeah, at about minus 12.6. Some of the loudest peaks. And now I'm going to be happy with that right now because I know later on I'm going to be adding in the drum sample, right? There is a sample that's going to reinforce this, and I'm going to get the minus 12 dBFS. But I'm trying to get the kick drum to peak at about minus 12 dBFS, right? And once I do that, then I balance the rest of the music to that kick drum. And the end result is that here I know I'm monitoring at about 85 dB SPL. Again, I won't go into detail. I explained it in that video, so you can always go and check that out, okay? But first of all, right, so one of the things that I always do on all these tracks, right, is to introduce a little bit of tape and console emulation. Okay, so my favorite, right, combination of these two is, right, virtual tape machines from Slate Digital. So I'm running this as if I'm running it through a on a multi-track 2-inch multi-track tape machine. We are getting the characteristics right, going through FG456, which is Kuantan G456 tape formula at 15 inches per second, right, 15 IPS. So tape will already add a little bit of slight compression. It tames a little bit of the transients down and fattens it up automatically. So this one is in combination with virtual mix rack, but specifically two plugins that I have in here. The first one, this is called Virtual Channel, and this emulates the analog signal path of a large format console. Right, in this case, I've set it to the Brit 4KG, which is right the SSL 4000 G series. Now, and after that, right, it goes into the FG73, which is an emulation of the Neve 1073 preamp. So, right, looking at a combination of these plugins here, let me pull this up again. Right, you have virtual tape machine. So it's as if we've taken the track, recorded it on analog tape, played back through a channel of an SSL 4000 with a Neve 1073 preamp section. So, we're trying to inject a little bit of the analog flavor, so to speak, into these mixes, because it's a sound that we have really grown to love. A lot of my favorite records were mixed on these analog recorded on analog tape and mixed on analog consoles. So we're trying to, for this project, we want to bring that flavor back in. All right. So this is me again. Different people have different approaches to using this, but I like using the sound. So let's pull this in. Let's listen first of all to just the kick in, okay? So let's listen. Okay. So Louis is a very expressive drummer, okay? And so there is a little bit of bleed, but honestly, I'm really not too bothered about it. But we can try to improve things by adding in this is, let's use a gate, right? But this is no ordinary gate. This is, right, the gate that comes built in with, that comes along with virtual mix rack. And it has this function that's called debleed. So I'm not actually trying to gate the drums, but this is a feature, is a function which can help to reduce some of the bleed. So let's try and check it out, see how well it works. Okay, let's check it out. Oh my goodness, that is so, look at that. Okay, a little bit of the snare comes in, that's fine. I don't mind too much. Okay, well, let's bypass the gate. There it is. So all the high-end information that's not needed has already been debleeded out, but it's still preserving the sustain, right, the entire body of the kick drum. So the problem with a lot of standard traditional gates is that it tends to gate out the noise, but very often it kills the sustain of the kick itself, and that's not necessarily what we want. We want the original, right, the original dynamic envelope of the kick drum, but we just want to remove some of the bleed, and this is a fantastic feature. It used to be, if you needed to do this, it used to be quite a complicated process. You have to parallel. There are some plugins a long time ago that used to have it, but the way to do it was very complicated. Now it's super simple, right? It's very, very easy. Okay, so there we go, right? Instantly, right, it has cleaned it up. And let's pull in, I love this, right, the FGA, which is the API EQ, API 550, okay? It's based on the API 550 EQ. All right, let's take out a little bit of 200. Let's take a little bit of 400. So basically I'm scooping out, right, a little bit of that low mid section. And I've been using this recently quite a lot, and this is FG Dynamics as well. So yeah, so let me just pull this into this screen. All right, sorry if the right half was being blocked out, because I use a dual monitor setup. So again, haven't done this live stream in a while, so sometimes I forget, right, about what the audience sees, right, over in one screen. So let me pull this back in. So FG Dynamics, I usually am not too much of a fan of using dynamics on some of the individual, the closed mic tracks, but ever since this came out, this is basically the dynamic section of the SSL. I've really found it useful. I really take a liking to it. And to be frank, this is just the default setting that comes straight away when you load in, right? They really dialed it into a 5:1 ratio. So pretty medium aggressive, I would say, okay? Attack is slow because I want the transient to go. Knee is going to be soft because, again, we actually do want that transient to come through. I'm not really trying to control it or try to clamp down too much on it because, again, we've got a great accent drummer. This is Louis Pergussim on drums. If we were to just compress everything to hell, right? All right, pardon the expression, okay, then you're kind of just killing everything. You're killing the dynamics of the musician or the performer. You want to preserve a little bit, all the little 16-note accents, little ghost notes here and there. These are all part and parcel of the performance, right, of the drummer, and we're not there to kill it. We're trying to enhance it. Okay, so this is just going to dial in to just take care a little bit, all right, of the loudest transients. So let's just dial that in. Let's pull it up a little bit more. Usually it needs to, the threshold needs to go pretty high. There you go. And that's all right? It's just barely lighting up on the gain reduction meter and only on the loudest peaks as well. So, okay, let's do a quick bypass. Nice, okay? Beautiful. Okay, so here we go. Now, one more thing that I will do, okay, is let me just actually take this EQ out. So this EQ is at about 4K. I got to keep in mind of this, okay, because this was added during tracking to just give the kick a little bit more attack. I may bring this back in. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I will need to bring back that 4K, 5K, the beater attack, but I will do it later on, right, with the FGA. Okay, so let's take that out for the moment. Okay, so back to what I was saying. All right, so although I don't necessarily use a lot of compression on the close individual tracks, I will do, insert a little bit of limiting and a bit of a clipper. So here we go. All right, this is Boss Labs Digital Clipper. So let's check it out. So this is, again, it's not there to do anything. It's just there to catch the loudest peaks. Yeah, like there you go. And that's it. And I'm going to leave all the softer kicks and hits untouched, okay? And again, this is not meant to be audible. It is meant to be very, very subtle on the loudest kicks only, okay? That's it. All right. So here we go. Now let's go with the kick out. Let's solo the outer kick, and you have an idea of how it sounds like. Let's go back to the early part of the song. So it's a little soft right now. All right, but you can hear it's a little bit more open, and you're kind of hearing how the kick drum sounds like from in front of the kick drum, okay? So what we're going to do with this, okay, all right, this one is going to be fairly simple. I am actually going to be rolling off all the top end, so let's check it out. Because all I want from here is just a little bit of the bottom end resonance. Almost acting like a sub-kick, so to speak, okay? Right. So if you're not using this on good quality headphones or earphones, it's going to be hard to hear like what's happening, okay? Because the frequencies are all low. Okay. I want to take away some of the boxiness, which is about 112, around 112 hertz. So let's take a little bit of that out. And that's all it's doing. It's just adding a little bit of weight, right, to the kick, right, to the inner mic. So there's inner mic, outer mic, just add a little bit of weight to it. There you go. Let me just bypass that. Let me mute that out. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So that's more of the body, and then with the weight. Yeah. Okay. So again, I'm listening on this on monitor speakers, so I can hear, right, the bottom end, that 50, 60 hertz that's being pushed. Okay. So in essence, this is actually my EQ. If I want the kick drum to be a little bit more heavier, weightier, a little bit more weight to it, I just bring the kick out mic down. If I want it less, I just automate this down. So that is fairly speaking, that's what I want lah. Okay. Okay, so that's kick drum, but we're not finished yet. I'm going to move on to this kick drum sample. And you're going to be wondering, why are you using samples? Again, you said this is a fantastic drummer. This is, one of the top drummers in the world. Why are you using samples? Okay, now, drum samples, all right, are, right, you can debate all you want, right? Drum samples are another tool, right, in the process of mixing. Now, you can always use and you can always abuse your tools. Now, primarily, drum samples are used either, number one, in this case, to just enhance the performance, to enhance the recording. But on the other hand, right, you can also use drum samples to fix, right, if the recording or the performance of the drummer is not so satisfactory, right? If it's below par, a drummer that's not consistent, right? The hits are not consistent, dynamics are not consistent, right? This is where drum samples can be useful. Now, on the other hand, another factor where you can look at about drum sampling is if you want to create a larger than life, presentation. Now, a lot of, let's say, for example, modern rock music and modern pop rock stuff, especially, the drums are all sampled, right? They always have some kind of sample reinforcement, some kind of sample replacement happening, because we're trying to make, right, the thing sound, really in your face, really larger than life. Again, in a live situation, when you hear, if you stand in front of a drum kit, those drums and the snares don't sound that way, no way at all. But in context of a mix of a modern production, this is very common. It's something that's been used for many, many decades already. So this one is not meant to overtake. It is just meant to support what we already have. Okay, so let me just dial that in quickly. Solo this sample, right? Let's listen to it. Okay, so this is taken from, right, the Steven Slate drum sample library. This is a Gorrenng actually, right? So I actually don't need too much of that bottom end, and I'm also going to take out some of that 110, 115 hertz region as well, because that's already okay, or that's already being covered by the the inner kick drum track. Okay, so right, this kick drum sample is going to be underneath, right, the mic tracks, to give this foundation, right, to give this really solid, consistent foundation. But at the same time, there's the blend of all the mic tracks to give you all the dynamics. So let's listen to all these three together. So kick. Let me just pull this snare track down so we won't be confused. So these three, right? These three tracks together. And let's listen to it. Here we go. Nice. Sweet. Okay. Now, in fact, it's actually peaked a little louder now. It's gone to like about -9. So I will actually kind of pull this back down, I think. It's a little bit too much. Let's bring the... Okay, where is it gone? There we go. All right, let's bring the sample down. Here we go. A little bit lower. Let's just blend it in again. Yeah, okay. A lot lower now. That's much better. Without. Let's check the polarity. Let me flip this. Okay, it's better the other way around. Sweet. Okay, there we go. There we have it. So now with the kick set, I've already set my initial level. I'm going to balance everything else relative, okay, to the kick drum. So usually this kick drum is not going to move already lah. It's going to be set already because I know I've calibrated, right, my I've set my initial mix levels, and we're going to see how it sounds, and everything will be balanced relative to that. Okay, so now the next thing that I love to move and work on is not going to be the rest of the closed mics. It's going to be the overheads, right? Overheads to me are the bread and butter, right? It is the real meat of where the drum sound is. So, pardon me a second. All right. So I'm going to do the same thing, right? Drop in the tape and console emulation. Let me link the two overhead tracks and we will blend them in, okay? Let's listen to how the balance of it goes, right? So, again, with a good drummer, you really need, the better drummer, the less mics you actually need. You know, if a drummer's really good, really well balanced in terms of dynamics, honestly, all you need is actually just a pair of overheads lah. Okay, so let's listen to it. All right, just the overheads alone. Yep, this is just the overheads alone. Awesome. So beautiful, beautifully balanced, man. Okay, let me just go back to the kick drum because I was hearing something. Okay, I want to go in a little bit more detail. I'm hearing a little bit of resonance here. So this is at about 109 hertz. I'm just getting rid of that. And this is usually an octave above the fundamental. So that's probably, you know, at about 55 hertz where the fundamental of the kick drum is. All right, so I feel I just need to clean that up a little bit. There we go. It's a lot better. Okay, sweet. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, let's go on now to the snare drum and same thing. let's load in the tape and console emulation. Usually I should have done this already before the stream starts, so it saves time. So there are 2 snare tracks here, actually 3, okay? And the reason why there's actually 3 mics that I use on the snare. This is snare A, which is a dynamic, an Audio-Technica ADM 650. You have snare B, which is a condenser. This is a small diaphragm condenser, an AT4041. And then lastly at the bottom, right, you have snare bottom, which is another Audio-Technica ATM 650. So the top and bottom snare mics, right, I've gone through different combinations throughout the years, and I've sort of settled now on both of them being, you know, the same microphone. But who knows, I might switch it up, right, later on down the line again as my tastes change. So now, with most of the sound coming from the overheads, again, right, the overheads is kind of covering the overall tonality of things. The close mics are just here to sort of reinforce it. So let's just blend in these close mics, okay? Oh, okay, we're not hearing anything because the snare master is off. Let's bring that in again. Beautiful. Okay, let's go and investigate a little bit further. Let me unlink this. Let's solo this. Okay, I'll probably high pass about 70. There's one thing. It's a bit of this ring at 400. I just want to cut out a little bit. So this will probably be the same with snare B, right? Okay, now I'm just going to check the polarity on this. So sometimes during the recording, you know, we always check the polarity to see which way works better. But sometimes it'd be surprising in the mix as well, whenever you introduce different plugins and all that. Sometimes it's always worth checking the polarity also, because you never know, there might be a surprise. Okay, after running through all the different plugins and emulations, maybe the other way around sounds better. So let's try that. Let's go to where... Interesting. It actually kind of sounds better when I flipped it around. Okay, right, so got to keep this in mind, yeah? Right, so now let's bring in the snare bottom. All right, same thing. Let me just load this up. So snare bottom, let's listen to it. Just take out, yeah, or a bit of this honky. Slight honkiness at about 850. And that's it. Let me flip this. There you go. Okay, I know I'll have to flip this because when I flip the polarity on this, this will also have to flip lah. Okay. So snare bottom kind of acts again. I think of it more as an EQ. If I want it to be brighter, I bring up the snare bottom. Beautiful. Okay, and once again, right, I have this snare sample, and again, it's there to reinforce, to provide this foundational layer that sits underneath everything. Okay, it's not meant to take over the track. Check the polarity. Let's flip it. That's better. Yep. It's a lot fatter when it's the other way around, right? So anyway, right, once I flip this, I knew the snare sample also needs to be flipped as well, man. Bop, 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 bop. Okay, kick, snare is done. Let's go on. Hi-hat. Bring in the hi-hat, right? Now, again, the close mics in here, they're not really meant to be really prominent. They are there to just give the localization, right? Because, again, majority of sound is going to come from the overheads. Let me take out a little bit of that snare. That's about 700 hertz. Nice. Let me bring this kick drum down. Let's bring this down about 2 dB and bring this up about 2 dB. Just kind of adjusting the balances. All right. So there's one important principle which that was taught to me, and it's called set but do not forget. So this means that whenever you set something else, right, whatever mix decision you made earlier, be an EQ or compression setting, you set it, but don't forget about it, because sometimes later on you will need to come back to it. In mixing, every decision affects everything. When you adjust something later down the line, that may affect a sound, or a particular setting for another track which you did earlier, right? You did like an hour earlier, you may need to go back again to readjust that. And when you readjust that affects something else, and then you need to tweak. That's why mixing is, it can be a big juggling act of, trying to balance all these different factors together. So here we go. Like kick, snare, hat is done. Next, room microphones are very, very important. Okay, so really, when it comes to live drums, the thing that really gives live drums, right, its character and, as the word, liveliness, is the room itself. Okay, so these were recorded using a pair of not a pair, sorry, it is a single microphone. It's actually a Vanguard V44S, which is a stereo microphone. It's a cool one, right? It's a very, very cool microphone, one of my favorite microphones that I have. Okay, so let's check it out. This is the room mic. Okay. Beautiful, right? So this was done in a blum line, right? A blum line configuration, which is basically 2 figure 8s, right? 90 degrees parallel to each other. Okay, no, sorry, 90 degrees perpendicular to each other. Okay, let me correct that, not parallel. Okay, so perpendicular. So right, with this room, I will want to take out a lot of bottom end. I don't need to take all the extreme bottom end. I take out some of the top end as well, just to darken it a little bit. A little bit of this room. About 540 around that red region, okay? And just blend it in. So there you go. With the room mics, it really gives the drums that 3-dimensionality, right? Because overheads are still fairly close mics. It's the where you introduce the room mic into the equation, that's where it gives, right, the size, right, of the drum kit. Okay, let's go next to toms. Okay, let's power on, and let's go to maybe a section where we get quite a number of toms, so it's easier to check it out. And that should be around. Let's try and look for a nice roll, a nice little tom roll that goes all the way around. Okay, maybe here. Let's start with tom 1, okay? First tom. Okay, right. So, first things first, same thing, same deal. Let's load in the tape-in console emulation. First thing, I'll always make sure, okay, even though it was recorded by me here in the studio, I always make it a habit to always check the polarity of all these tracks. So we compare it with the overhead mics. Okay, so let's listen. I'm going to cycle and just loop this little tom hit here. It'll sound a bit weird, it'll sound funny. Okay, but here we go. Okay, let's flip the polarity and see. Okay. Okay, if you notice, suddenly when I inverted the polarity, I clicked the polarity button, the tom just suddenly went lifeless. It's like, what happened to all the body, the meat, the bottom end is just gone. So this just verifies that, okay, I had my polarity correct in the first place. So let's go back. Let's look at the tom in solo. Okay, we don't need all this bottom end. Okay, just a bit of a 350. I'm going to get rid of that. Still a bit there. Okay, that's much better. Maybe narrower Q. Okay, got to be quite drastic here. Okay, now so a little bit of honkiness here. Just about 930 hertz. Okay. Now with toms, okay, these are all, let me go to the group. You don't really need everything above 10K. So right, everything above 10K is already been rolled off. Okay, so let's check it out. Okay, just needs a little bit of a bump at the fundamental. Not much, just 4 dB at about 150 hertz here. There we go. Nice. Okay, so let's repeat the process with the other two toms. Let's go with tom 2. Same thing. Load tape and console emulation. Right. Solo it with the overheads. Check the polarity. Invert. Invert polarity. Okay, right, yeah. Immediately, right, you can hear it. Again, if you're on good headphones and speakers, when I flip it, suddenly the toms just like lose all its energy and all its power. So that means, right, we had the polarity settings correct. Okay, let's take out all the bottom end that we don't really need. Okay. So this resonance here at about 200 hertz we don't need also. And another one higher, another one around that note. So usual culprits lah, right, between 200 300 hertz. That's much better. Bypass EQ. Yeah, okay, so much more focus this time around. Okay, let's put this back to where the pan position is and check it out. Lovely, okay, lovely. Okay, so last thing, floor tom number 3. Let's rinse and repeat with the same process. Tape and console emulation. Check the polarity. Even though all these Monday, it's worth it to always check the polarity, okay, especially with multi-mic sources. Flip. Bypass. Okay, let's bring this tom a little bit louder. Flip it. Oh. Okay, so this is actually interesting. When I flip it, actually some of the upper mid-range cancels out. The bottom end is still okay, it's still intact, right? The bottom end seems to be still intact. But again, technically this is wrong, but it actually kind of works better. So I'm gonna keep this in mind, right? Let me just listen, probably need to listen in context. So sometimes the technically wrong thing is the better thing to do. So let's check it out and see. Okay, yeah, so that is interesting. Okay, so it's not the first time, it has happened before, but let's listen in context. Flip. I actually like it when it's flipped, you know. It's actually, that cancellation is actually helpful. So it helps to actually cancel out at some of those frequencies which we do want to cancel out. So let's check it out. So let me listen. Yeah, about 560. So this could be a fairly wide cut. And another one box. At about 260, 270 hertz. Again, this can be again a wider cut. And just a little bit of a bump. Just give it a bit of weight. Okay, let's check again with the polarity, okay? Just verify it. Yeah. Somehow I do like it with that polarity flip. So interesting, right? So sometimes again, when it sounds right when it's wrong, okay? That's the only way I can describe it. Right. I think I need to take a little bit of the 540, 550 out from the overhead, so I'm going to do that right now. And let's check out this drum fill again. Nice, okay. Let me just back this off down a little bit. Awesome. Okay, right. So now we have this right simple track here, which we'll see whether we need it. It really doesn't feel like it does because, again, with a good drummer, the balance, right, that's being captured by the overheads is really perfect. But, as a recorder, sometimes it's good, right, to just capture everything because you never know what you might need, right? So let's check out the right track. Okay, a bit of the... So a bit of that 700, that's coming from the snare, by the way. So this the close mic, again, just bring it a little bit underneath just to give a little bit better localization. Majority of the sound is coming from the overheads and the room mics, man. So okay, almost there. Last but not least, we have this room SSD. So this sample comes from the 7-slit drum. It comes from the sample library. So let's check it out. Okay, so this one will usually be a little bit slightly larger than life. Okay, again, I don't really need the extreme bottom end. Okay, let me take out a little bit of... So the room that this was recorded in, right? I think this is a Blackbird sample, right? So this was at Blackbird Studios. So there's something at about 825 hertz there. So just cutting it out because that might not gel, right, with the drum recording that we did here. So, okay, now what I would love to do on like some of these drum samples is let's play around with it. Let's drop in, right, the good old pulsar smasher. So this is an emulation of the 1176 with all buttons mode in. Okay, so what we're gonna do is really squash this and see. Let's check it out. Solo. Okay, I'm gonna need to bring the output back up. Bypass. So suddenly it becomes this explosive sounding thing, right? Let me bring this out a little louder. Maybe even more. Let's drive it all the way up. Oh, nice. Okay, it's distorting. It's bringing out all the sustain, all the ambience. And it's a very unnatural sound, but it's a very cool sound, okay? Bypass. This is just a clean, SSD room sample, right? And this is when it's compressed. Very nice. Let me pull the mix back a little bit. All right, so maybe about 75%. And just blend into taste. Let me bypass this, flip the polarity. Okay, right. Might be a little bit too much. Let me just back off a little bit on the bottom end, okay? Okay, I gotta EQ it a little bit more now because it's really bringing out some of the other resonances. About 400 is bringing out there. Okay, so it's just there to add a little bit of energy. Maybe it'll work once the entire context on mix, but now just with the drums alone, it sounds a little bit too much, okay? So I'm just going to mix this down low. Again, set, and don't forget, sometimes you will need to come back later on to tweak some of these other settings as well. Okay, so let's go ahead now. One of the things that I like to put on the overheads, okay, let's focus on the overheads right now, is actually this de-esser. So this is from AOC's, the E2 de-esser. What I like to do on this actually is to use this as a little bit of, right, control on the cymbals. Very, very subtle, all right? Okay, let's bring the sensitivity down. Bring this to about 30%. So some of the loudest hits, right, is just going to tuck the high end down. And not much. It's not much. You're talking about 1 dB, maybe 1.5 dB the most. You back it down a little bit more. Beautiful, okay? Just a little bit of, just a tiny bit of a massage on the top end of the cymbals. Okay, then pretty much done with the drums. All right, okay, no, not yet. Now let's add in a little bit of reverb. So what I like to do, okay, in this case is to use reverence. Let's load up. So reverence here, this is actually a convolution reverb. This is built in, it's stock with Cubase. And let's check it out. This is the default LA Studio setting. And you might be wondering, why adding reverb on the overheads? And this is something which I picked up from learning from Chris Laudalge actually. So he likes to put his reverb on the overheads, not so much on the close mics. Well, I'll probably put a little bit on close mics as well. So let me look for a suitable sample library. Let's go to the impulse responses. Let's check out and let's go Lexicon 480. All right. Let's go with the okay. Let's go with small wood room. Let's check it out. Nice ambience. Let me turn down the this room SSD needs to be brought down a little bit. Let's change it. Let's change to another one. A bit too long. Small plate. This is a really long actually. Large wood room. Jazz hall. Nice. Okay, so maybe just at about -10. Okay, now let's EQ this reverb a little bit. Okay, reverbs also need to be EQ'd. Okay. Okay. There's a bit of a resonance at 680. Okay, one more at about 2K. That's much better. Okay, so now maybe just a little bit of reverb on the snare sample. Okay, the toms are going to need a little bit as well, but we'll get to that later, okay? Like, because I think I'm going to need to hear everything in context, then only we know. Back to drums. Okay, so let's go back to the drums, right? Now, one thing that I will do on the drums, right, is not so much on the individual tracks, but I love having, a little bit of drum compression on the overall drum bus. And the favorite one that I have here is the API, the 2500. Okay, this is the version that's from Waves, and this is one of my favorites that I use on drums. So let's check it out. Oh, already bypass it. It's nice, it's cool, but just adds a little bit of extra energy. Okay, especially let's go to maybe the back portion, the outro solo. Bypass. That's just kind of brings out a little bit more energy to it. Cool and all, without, it's good. Just kind of makes it jump out a little bit, okay? Nice, okay? I love how all the cymbals kind of jump out and accent where exactly is needed. Again, hallmark of a great accent drummer, great drummer, okay? They know how to balance all the different hits and the accents just nice, right? Just nice. It makes, my job as the mixer so much easier. So there you go. That's drums. Let's move on to bass. And bass on this track was played by David Yee, right? The legendary ASWARA. Okay, so, right. So same thing. Right. Oh, by the way, I'll always sometimes, put in a little high pass at 20 hertz just as a bit of insurance. Okay. David uses a Yamaha TRB, which I think that is his classical bass that he uses. Now, I already have some processing in here, so let's just listen to how it sounds. As I said, when you work in digital nowadays, right, it's always mixing as you go along. Let's listen to the drums and bass. Sweet. And I'm not doing much. Okay, once again, I'm not doing much. I think during the recording, there's a little bit of compression on the 1176 coming in. Not a lot, a tiny bit. But again, with a good drummer, there's nothing much that needs to be done. It's so even, it's already been playing back so evenly already, so no complaints there, man. So I'm having this 1176 here. Let me walk through you the chain that I have, okay? So there is a bass DI, which is a radial JDI. This gives me like the clean tone. And there is the bass TH, which is the Aguilar tone hammer. So it's a separate bass preamp. So I combine the two of these, usually 50-50, right? Because the radial is going to give me the clean tone. The Aguilar is going to give me a little bit of that amp-like character. Okay, so I dial it in, scoop out a little bit of the low mids as well, to give more of an amp-like character sound to it. And all of it is going to be bussed to this bass group. So first thing on this bass group, is Waves C4 stereo. It's a multiband compressor, but this is only using the bottom range, bottom frequency, the bottom band, just to control the low end, right? The really bottom low end lah. So let's solo this and see. There we go. So this is the actual bottom end, right? Right. The mids, all that are all untouched. Nice, lovely, okay. Right, so the next thing I have here, this is Surfer EQ2 Boogie. I don't think I need to use it lah. I don't think it's necessary for it. So we'll skip that. Okay, and so next thing I have here is, again, one of my favorite. You see this, all my mixes is 1176s all over, man. But this is a revision A, and fairly slow attack, fairly fast release, and again, not more than a few dB. That's all it's doing, man. Again, with a good bass player, you don't want to do too much. Okay, next thing, right, that I will have, this will be Bass Rider. So this one will be there to just, again, gently control the level of the bass. Super clean. It's very clean, right? So the thing with Bass Rider, right, is one of these intelligent plugins that have come up in recent years. What it does is that it's not like a compressor where it waits for the threshold it waits for the audio to go over the threshold, then it clamps down. That's what a compressor does. But what they do is they look ahead at the audio, and this anticipates the level changes and quickly brings this fader down, the one that's here. They call this the rider. I quickly rise the fader down or up according to what the dynamics needs to be, really keeping it super transparent, super even, and it's been really helpful, super useful, right, for anyone who's recording bass. Now the next thing I have here is gonna be, you're gonna see this right in a lot of my mixes. MV2. So MV2 is short for Max Volume 2. Super simple. It's actually meant as a maximizer, but it's got really handy functions as well in mixing as well. So it's got three parameters, right? Output, right, is the overall output gain, which you may need to compensate. High level is the compression, like we usually know lah, right? Exceed a certain threshold, compressor will bring it down. Now, low level, this is where the interesting and the unique thing about MV2 is. It's like a combination of expansion, it's a combination of like parallel processing. But what this do basically is that it actually brings up all the low level detail. So this is really handy in this case, right, of something where you want to bring out detail, you want to bring out attention, you want to have it, bring out the energy, but you don't really want to affect the transient, the actual peak, right, and the actual punch dynamics. So this is very handy. I love this on bass because this really brings that solid, it brings things out, it brings out harmonics out as well, and it's been a really big game changer. So let's check it out. Okay, we need to compensate. So compensate about 3 dB down, bypass. Oh, that's lovely, man. Just makes that bass slightly fatter, a little bit, brings the sustain a little bit more up front as well. Okay, that's very cool. Very, very, very cool. Now let's move on now to some of the rhythm instruments. All right, I'm actually gonna go with acoustic guitar first. Okay, let's skip the piano. The piano is kind of playing that little that 60s doo-wop figure, dun, 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 and so we're gonna leave that first. Let's go along with the acoustic guitar. So this acoustic guitar was of course played by Chobib himself. So let's check it out. All right, so let's load in. So this time around, I use a slightly different. It's basically the same, except in terms of, right, with the tape selection, I go for 30 IPS instead, right, instead of 15 IPS, right. 30 IPS is a little more full range, so you get a little bit more high end detail. So let's solo the guitar. Let's just solo this. Here we go. Lovely. Okay, now I am going to use one of my favorite EQs, right? TDR Nova. Right, so Nova is a parallel dynamic EQ. It's free of charge, by the way. Link is down in the description. So let's start with a high pass filter. Okay, we don't need anything below 110, okay? So here, this is where it's interesting. I'm going to engage band number 2, solo it. A little ringy here at about 1.1K, so let's bring this gain back down on solo, and we're going to activate the dynamic EQ section, and this is done by clicking on this threshold. Let's select wideband. Let's go to 3 to 1. Attack, let's go fast. Release, let's keep it at 200 milliseconds, okay? Right? So this is where this comes into play. I'm going to adjust threshold down so that every time that 1.1K pokes out a little bit, right, it will attenuate, right? And it leaves... There you go. And the beautiful thing about dynamic EQ that is it leaves everything else untouched. And when that frequency or whatever that you are trying to boost or attenuate, isn't exceeding that threshold, isn't jumping out, isn't poking out, it leaves it alone. It lets it go. So this is super transparent. It's really, really cool, right? It's for times where you want to really control, all right? You want to EQ stuff, but you want to sort of maintain the transparency. All right. Okay, so there's one little high-end zing there. Okay, let's hunt for it. At about 4.3K. So same thing. Bring this down on solo, threshold. Okay, let's go back into wideband mode. Okay, I think even the bottom end or so maybe could do with just a little bit. Let's check out. Okay, let's go with the narrow Q first now, okay? Yeah, so at about that 170, 180 hertz there's a little bit of that woomph, that little oomph, woofiness that's coming in. So let's deal with this. So this one, I'll keep it at 2 to 1, a little gentler. And let's bring this. Just a little bit. Okay, let's listen. All right, sweet. Okay, now let's go with acoustic guitar, right? Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, this was actually a different voicing. So let's check it out again. Nice. Okay, right. So you see, these aren't exactly strict doubles. So even this is the left and right acoustic guitar, right? Because the left track was done with the more of an open chord voicing, right? And then the right track was done with a slightly higher, with a higher position. So different options of doing acoustic guitars. Whenever you're doubling stuff, you can always, right, or electric guitars for that matter, you can either use both the doubles left and right using the exact same voicing, right, to essentially give you a wide mono, or in this case sometimes if you want it to be a little bit more different, so to speak, you use different voicings on the different sides. Okay, so in this case this was what, right, Chobib wanted to go for. And okay, so let's do the same process for the right hand acoustic guitar, TDR Nova, solo, and let's check it. So it's a lot higher, see the register. So we can actually So I'm gonna bring up the high pass slope, the filter all the way up to 180. Okay, so even the frequencies are different. So this one is a little bit higher, so. Well, 1.8K, right? So 1.8K, activate dynamic EQ, wideband, 3-to-1, fastest attack again, and okay, and then one more at about 1K actually. There's just a little bit at 1K on solo it. Alright, that sounds pretty good. And let's listen in context with the two of them. Right, acoustic guitar, left and right. Let's play this section, chorus. Nice. Okay, so now all these acoustic guitars, right, are all going into a group. Okay, so, all right, to make things easier to manage. And okay, so I actually have this Nova here, which I don't really need it anymore. Let's listen to the acoustic guitar again. Just add a little bit of compression with the FG2A. Okay, might need just a tad more EQ here. At about 1.1K. Alright, that's nice. And wow. Okay, so same thing that's happening on the right, even though it's a different voicing. So that's probably, you know, a common thing that's with the guitar that's being used. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to give this a little bit of revival here, just to give a little bit of that shimmer back to this guitar. Just a little bit. Nice. Okay, so let's drop in a little bit of that same reverb that I used on the drums, just to gel the whole thing together. Just a little bit. Okay, very nice. Okay, very, very cool. Let's pull in now. Let's move on to the distortion guitars. Okay, so one of the interesting things is that we actually went through different sounds, and we actually sort of tweaked this and kind of fell back into the one that I right. Originally we recorded with the Laney. We went for like a Marshall kind of overdriven kind of sound, but kind of listening back, this wasn't really what that you wanted. So right? Thankfully, we recorded with a DI track. So it's always useful, it's always handy to always record a clean DI track as well, right? With the DI box, you can always split it out to the amp out there and record a clean DI separately as well, because this is where it really came in handy, lah, right? Right, basically came in and saved the day, okay? Because this allowed us to run this back into an amp simulator. So in this case, this was overloud, THU, and we dialed in a tone which is a lot more, a lot more sustained, a lot more saturated. And this, in this case, this would be actually a Mesa Mark II, right? Mark II lead with, right, a tube screamer, right? Tube screamer, so driving the input. So something a little bit more saturated, a little bit more sustained was what was needed, lah, basically. So let's listen to this. So I'm going to EQ this a little bit. Just take out a little bit of the top. Okay, let's listen in context, but let's copy this over. So this should actually be the same amp model, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is, right? So this was the same amp model. So let's just copy this baby over. Let's pan them left and pan them right. Okay, easier. Let me just organize this over here so it's a little easier to see. So we're just listening to only the VST, right? The amp sim, the one that's been run through over loud. Okay, let's check it out. And voila. Very nice. Okay, so that actually gave it a little more sustain, but I still actually like the overall body, right, of the actual amp sound. So we're going to bring that back in as well. Before that, as you can guess it, we're going to dial in all the tape and amp simulation, right, plugins, right, tape and console plugins, not amp sim. Okay, here we go. So the tracks you can see here, there are 4 tracks because each take was recorded, right? In addition to the DI, it was also recorded with 2 microphones, right? You have here the 160, which is the Bear Dynamic 160. It's a ribbon mic, and you have here. This is the 650, which is the ATM 650, which is a dynamic. So it's essentially, you can see with the guitar main rhythm tracks, there's actually 6 tracks. 2 performances, left, right, but in each take there were 3 tracks each lah. 2 mic and 1 DI. So let's blend these babies in and let's see how it goes. Okay, so let me just link all them together and let's listen to it. So interestingly, I already had this Better Maker EQ here. And what was I doing with this? Let me take a look quickly, visually, and see what was happening here. Interesting, I don't really see what did I do. Did I just load this in here? There must be some reason. Okay, and all right, there we go. Right, so there was a little bit of attenuation, right, to take out a little bit of that. Yeah, all right. So this was here just to take out a little bit of that, the top end bite to just make it a little warmer sounding because it's starting to get a little bit too bitey. Oh, which by the way, because Abang Chobib records his main guitar is his favorite, red Strat. So Strat sometimes with distortion can get a little spiky. So that is probably why I had the Better Maker EQ in there. But that's a very very useful EQ, right? Which I will probably use a lot. Okay, here we go. How are we doing for time? We're about an hour and a half in. And okay, this is the stage where we're gonna bypass all of the other stuff, the piano, all the clean guitar. Okay, we're gonna bypass all the lead guitar, the strings and everything, and jump straight into the vocals. Okay, because look in a mix lah, right? Vocal is king lah, right? The vocal is the one that carries the melody, it carries the lyrics, it carries the meaning, the message, and the story of the song, and that is what the listener always gravitates to. So one of the most useful advice that I got in the past, and I always would give nowadays, right? Especially to anyone who's getting into mixing, is to always try to bring in your vocal as early as possible, right? Because when you mix if you go on an approach where you mix, okay, your drums, your bass, your guitars, your keyboards, all your music, you make all your music perfect and beautiful already. Sometimes you're going to find it a challenge when you want to mix your vocals in because you've already filled up all that space, right, with all the instruments, and then the vocal suddenly has no space. And the only way to make the vocal sit is to either apply a very aggressive compression, a very aggressive EQ, in the end, kind of making the voice sound a little bit unnatural and a little bit unnecessarily harsh. So one of the easiest ways to avoid it and to make sure that the vocal always sits right in the mix, right, up front and center, is to always mix the vocal in early. So that's what we're going to do. That's why I'm going to skip all of the other stuff, and that's typically what I always do. Skip the piano, the pads, the clean guitar. We're gonna skip all the leads, right? Leave it for the last. Skip the strings as well, and focus on the vocal, right? And the majority of the time is going to be on the vocal itself. So let's pull this in. Okay, for the vocal, all right. Then this is where, all right, Naz, if you're still watching, this is where it is. Okay. And let's see. And Ali says, "Hey JD again." Like, hello, thanks if you're still there. Look, the live streams usually last quite a while, so I perfectly understand if anyone needs to go. Okay, right? And Joey says, "Thank you, JD, for taking an in-depth effort in making the source solid and in a well-thought manner. Salute." All right, no, thank you so much. Right? It all starts with the source, man. Starts with the player, starts with the arrangement, starts with the choice of sounds. So anyway. Let's go back to vocals. So I have my favorite, processing chain that I use for vocals. And let me see. I'm going to break it down into two different stages now when we talk about processing vocals. Let me take a sip. Thank you anyway for all the comments. I'm going to break it down into two different stages. All right. First half is what I call the corrective processing stage. Right. Second half is called the creative. So first half is corrective, second half is creative. What is in the corrective stage? Corrective stage means that we are just making it a little bit prettier, making it a little bit beautiful. We're getting rid of all the unwanted, the ugly warts and and imperfections. All right. Getting it to a certain stage where then you can apply all the creative stuff, you see, all the creative processing. So let's start with the first half of of what we're going to do by turning on, right, again, same thing, virtual tape machines, and also the mix rack with the console emulation, but a little twist, a little different this time around. Okay. So instead of the FG73, I use the Hollywood Virtual Tube collection because with vocals, right, having a tube preamp a tube preamp emulation can be useful because it will have to bring out, right, some of the harmonics. We also have here, this is FG Stress set to a parallel processing, right? I love parallel processing on vocals, and this is FG Stress on the distressor, okay? And this is going to play a really big role, okay, in how I mix vocals. And right, this one here, this is FGDS. This is actually one of their newest modules, that plugin modules that was introduced. And this is actually a de-esser. In the past, alright, I had to use a different de-esser. But now that they've got a de-esser in the pack, in the virtual mix rack, hey, might as well use this, okay? And this is modeled after BSS 902. So here we go. And let's listen to with the processing, right, with this in mind, and let's just balance the vocal roughly, okay? Okay, let's turn off, okay? Turn off all the effects first, right? Let's turn off all the effects, turn off some of the other processing as well, and let's just listen to just this. There you go. Menikam jiwa hatiku telah kau goda oleh pandangan yang tak dapat ku lupa kemana kau pergi. Oh, it's sitting beautifully, man. Kau membawa hatiku. Okay, but let's listen to the chorus first. Okay, right. Again, remember I said set, but don't forget, now in the context of all the vocals, the bass kind of needs a little bit of EQ. So set and don't forget. So mixing is not a linear stage. It's not a linear process. It's not like a point where you get from A to B. It's a process where sometimes you are going for A, B, C, D, you jump to J, and sometimes then you go from A, B, C, D, E, F, then you jump back to B. It is not a linear process, and from time to time, you'll see that I will sometimes not randomly, like actually, I will need to go back to something, right, which I did earlier. So in this case, this is where the bass, I feel, just needs to poke out a little bit. And again, with the drums, with the bass, with the guitars, everything in context, this is where that kick, right, the bite needs to be brought back. So let's go with 5K and let's just bump it up. There you go. There you go. Right, just gives a little bit of that smack of the beater back again. Okay, so in context as usual. Lovely. Okay, very cool. So now let's dive into the processing. Back again. Okay, so corrective processing. Let's solo the vocal. High pass filter, 12 dB per octave. Let's look for a good place to. Pertemuan yang tidak disangka. 70, about 70 hertz. Okay, so now let's listen out to some of the resonances that, some of the stuff that I may want to clean up on the vocal. It's great performance, right? It's just that sometimes to make it fit into context, we may need to clear out some of the stuff. Walau seketika cinta di hati. Okay, right. So there is this little bit of this low end build up here. Let's look for it. Okay, activate band 2, solo it. At about 250, just a very light build up. Okay, so dynamic EQ, wideband, 3:1, attack is at 0. Fastest attack 0.1 milliseconds. This release though, for vocals, I want to pull it back to maybe about 100. Okay, I've used a slightly longer release time nowadays, right? Maybe 80 to about 100. Okay, Because with vocals, you want it to act as fast as possible. Yeah, I want to catch whatever the resonances are as fast as possible, but I also want it to let go, right, quickly as well. You don't want to hang on, and right, you don't want it to cling on and clamp down on those particular frequencies too long, because that makes it unnatural, you see. So generally speaking, it's usually a very, very fast attack and fairly fast release as well. Okay, so here we go. Let's bring down.
Kan ku ulang saja cinta itu hanya untukmu.
Okay, this is usually when the vocals are singing. There's a bit of punch to it, so I get a little bit of that low end. It's got to do with a little bit of the wind, the air that's moving, but that helps to it just helps to smoothen it out a little bit lah. Okay, so let's listen again.
Ketika cinta di hati hanya.
All right, okay, so just a little bit. I don't think that needs much to be done. Again, great vocalist, you don't need to do much. So just a little bit of stridentness at about 3.5K. Just a tiny touch though. And again, it's pretty me. Every vocalist that sings at this range will always have a little bit of strident frequency between 3 to 4K. So this can be a little bit wider Q.
Saat ku bersamamu, kan ku ulang saja.
So it's only on like the highest notes where you get it.
Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu, kan ku ulang saja.
Nice, very, very nice. Okay, so this happens usually again on the higher registers lah, when it's more energetic, where you hit the higher notes. You always end up a little bit strident there. Every vocalist will sound like that, right? Okay, so here we go. Now I am going to add one more, right, which I have used quite a little bit, right, in recent months as well. This is Smooth Operator by Baby Audio. This is essentially going to be doing the same thing, but a little more subtle, right? Because this one I can adjust the balance. So I'm gonna go for, and let's check it out, vocal smoother. So I need to bring this down to about 75, right? And let's just make a comparison.
Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu.
Oh, that's nice.
Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa.
There's a little bit more air to it, right? Immediately it sounds like it's been EQ'd a little bit.
Saat ku bersamamu, kan ku ulang saja.
In fact, maybe I don't want too much of this. I might want to just tuck this offset down. Yeah, let me just...
Cinta itu hanya untukmu.
Yeah, okay. Let me just bring this back down a little bit lah, right? Because this one might be, if you're doing like a typical pop vocal, then maybe that high end will help it, but maybe not in this case, okay? So let's solo it again. Let's just... Let me just verify. Okay, that's right. That's zooms in on, right, some of the honky mid-range. And back to this. Okay, right. I've just tweaked this just to bring it back down to closer towards 4K, because this was closer to 5K just now. Let's get out of solo mode and let's listen to it.
Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu.
Nice. Okay, so you took out a little bit of that stridentness, smoothed out some of those frequencies there. Okay, now I actually think that, right? So let me just go to this, back to this, the FG stress. Right, so I mentioned earlier that I use this as a parallel processing on vocals, right? Parallel processing is one of my favorite tools, and as a starting point, I usually start out at about 50-50, but I think I feel that I probably need to back this off, okay? I kind of want his vocals to breathe a little bit, you know? It's nice, it's really nice and solid right now. Probably works if this is like a modern rock or modern pop track, but not in this context. So let me ease this back down to maybe 20-30%, you know, who knows. So
Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu.
yeah, it sounds better already, right? It's about 28%, just under 30%, right? Starting point is 50-50. It feels a little bit too much, right? So I'll just dial it back down just to give it a little bit of dynamics to breathe lah. Okay, so here we go. Let me just play around with a few other things. The distressor, you can also add some harmonics into it. So let me just check it out and see, okay? And see whether, you know, is there any beneficial, whether I can add this or not. So let me just take,
Yang tidak disangka
so check distortion too.
cinta terus menikam jiwa hatiku telah kau goda
Distortion 3.
oleh pandangan yang tak dapat ku lupa.
Okay, I think it'll be best only when we hit the chorus. But let's continue listening.
Kemana kau pergi, kau membawa hatiku ini.
Without.
Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu. Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat
I think I like distortion 2 the best. You know, it adds that, right? Just adds a little bit of harmonics. 3 gets a little squirrely again. Starts to get a little screechy, which is not what we want. So again, horses for courses, man, wherever it works. Okay, so just wanted to add that. So there we go. We are almost done. So let's go back to the chorus again. One last plugin that I have here. This is actually Waves Renaissance Compressor. This is you know, one of the classic plugins, right? It's interesting now that we use the word classic to describe plugins. It's not the way it used to be. Okay, but this is literally a classic plugin. It's a very, very old plugin. So this one, okay, what this is going to do is this is just going to catch the very loudest peaks, and not a lot, okay? Right? The amount of gain reduction I'm going for is not going to be more than 1 dB. Again,
Walau seketika
let me back this off.
cinta di hati
0.8.
hanya untukmu. Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa.
And that's all it's doing, okay? That's all I want it to do. It's not meant to do any obvious compression because that's already taken care of. This is just to catch some of those loudest peaks. And, right, this balance.
Saat ku bersamamu, kan ku ulang saja.
Okay, very, very cool. Right, so this is pretty much the corrective stage, okay? As I mentioned, I split things into 2 stages when it comes to processing in general, but in this specific situation, talking about vocals, corrective, right? So remove, right, all the bottom end, all the harshness, the resonances, de-acid, and all that, little level control to make sure it's even. Now we can go into the creative side, and this is where things get a little interesting. So I'm going to do something, all right, that, again, if you are a regular, long-time viewer, you already know what I'm going to do, okay? So let's go and do the vocal thickening trick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send the vocal right into this effect here called doubler, right? So this is an effects bus, right, in the effects group. So this is Waves doubler. So doubler is like a double tracker, sort of thing. And what it does is that its easiest way is just to play it to let you hear it. Okay, so this is how it sounds running through the doubler. Nice, wide, slightly pitch shifted. See? So this is what doubler does. So it creates a fake double, okay? So one thing that I have to pay attention to is that I have to make sure I disable all the stereo bus processing, okay? Because I don't want it to happen. So I'm going to run the lead vocals through doubler and export it, right? And several copies, 4 in fact in total, each time with slightly varying pitch shift, right? And detuning values, okay? So that's right, the start one. This will take a couple of minutes, so probably it's a good time if anybody wants to go and take a toilet break or something like that, okay? So let's make sure that we select the proper channel, doubler, all right? File name, doubler +3, file path, project audio, okay, file type, wave 48K, 24-bit. Make sure this is an LR channel, right? Left-right channel stereo. And you want to create audio track, insert back to wool, so it automatically inserts it back, okay? This will take a couple of minutes, so this will be a good time taking a quick break, and maybe it's a good time for me to refill. So don't go anywhere. I'm going to export this, right, a couple of times. Let me just go and get some water as well. And see you in a bit. All right. Actually, I'm already back already, right? And oh, hello there, Oz Samad. Hello, Mr. Oz. Thanks for joining in, man. What a good time to be jumping in right now. Too bad it's not a. This is not a. Thanks for joining my clubhouse. Hey Oz, how you doing, man? Everyone, folks, say hi to Oz, right? And Oz says hi, JD. Salam, Chobib. All right, okay, right. So, have you both ever met each other or played together ever? Because again, these are two, highly respected guitarists here that we have in the live chat, man. All right, 7 seconds remaining. Okay, for this export. Haven't done this live stream in a long time. And okay, let's go. Right, so first one down here. This is doubler +3. You can see, right? This is the vocal. So we're going to repeat. I'm going to repeat this process, right, 3 more times. Each time I'm going to change the detune settings. So now I'm going to go for -6 and +6, okay? Right. And if you notice, I am inverting the positive and negative values, and there's a very good reason for that, okay? There's a very good reason for that. So the first one is +3, -3, okay? So +3, -3. So the second one is -6, +6. So every export, right, I flip the positive, negative values around, so it evens out the detune, right? The detuning, the amount of detuning that's happening on the doublers, right, on the different side. If I were to do that, what's going to happen is that everything here is going to be positive. It sounds sharp on one side, and everything on this other side will sound flat. That's very weird. That's very unnatural. So that is primarily the main reason why we are flipping flipping it back and forth this way lah. Okay, right. I got to charge my battery, man. So And some messages are coming in through as well. Let's see. Okay, R says, hi, I'm okay. Saw your post on this on FB. Lucky I got on in time. All right, okay. Uh, let's see here. Oh, I mean, like Clubhouse, right? This is always available on the YouTube channel on the replay as well. And I think most of the people actually catch it on the replay nowadays, because now with we're not no longer in lockdown. Everyone's got a lot of other entertainment, a lot of other things to distract them nowadays. So less people actually come on the live streams, lah, right? Not like in the good old. Can't believe I'm saying now, in the good old days of live streaming in 2020. Okay, right. So anyway, right. Let's see what else is going on. Chobib, hi us, bro. Glad you can join us. Okay, right. All right. Someone says, Alhamdulillah. Hope you are well. Wow. One of these days, man. Hey, maybe we should see an Samad with a Chobib collaboration. You never know, man. So, right, I had some amazing musicians. I worked with some amazing musicians on this project, man. It's Louis Progressum on drums, right? David Yee on bass, and many, many others, right? And this is super, super awesome, man. So, you know, who knows, right? Let's have what's that? Night in San Francisco, night in Kuala Lumpur. Wow, let's have that with Malaysian guitarists next. Okay, so next one we're gonna do is, let me double check again. So this should be +9 and -9. Okay, so here we go. Doubler +9, and got to charge my phone before it dies, man. Yeah, well, Ase is right. What a lineup indeed, man. If you remember us, I posted on Twitter and Facebook a few weeks ago, of I think maybe last month, but I was looking for female guitarists. This was for one of the tracks lah on Chobib's project. There's actually an instrumental jam track, okay, that is in the album. Super super cool. Again, it's all right. David Yee on bass. We had I can't remember. Sorry, I can't remember. Forgot who's on the percussion, right? But the cool thing on that, right, is we had it was Anis. Oh my God, we had 3 female guitarists on that track, so that is super super cool. I wish we could feature it, but I think we want to keep the surprise, right? I think Chobi would rather keep that surprise for later on lah. That's a very cool jam track where we had, Irina as well. Okay, Irina was also on that track also. Okay. And that's an interesting song. Okay, super super cool jam track. That's coming. That's part of the album. Whew. Let's see. Okay, we are now doubler +3. Okay, Asamat, rock will never die. Phones, however, need charging. Okay, yeah, indeed, man. Yeah. Well, we should be doing a music comedy show. We should bring that back. All right, Asama says, I see. All right, yep, that's one of my explanation on why I was looking for female guitarists. Chobib Eiman, yes, fabulously awesome. Right, Madin and Malik Prakash on percussion as well. Yeah, very cool. So that's a cool track. And 7 seconds to this one, and we're going to do one more, okay? Now, one thing about the MixStream episodes is that, when we get to the end of the mix, right, this would be, I would consider this to be like maybe the first draft. Because typically this might take maybe 3-4 hours. Each live stream usually lasts around that on average. Okay, let's do the last one first. Okay, -12. Okay, and when we reach the end, this is probably, I would say, when we reach the end of the stream, it's gonna probably be 85%, right? 85% the way to where the final mix is, right? All the fine tuned stuff like such as the automation and all that, not going to show during live stream because it's going to take way too long, and then it's going to be super boring looking at me automate every single line and every single word, up 1 dB, down half dB, up 1 dB, down 1 dB here and there, because it's a very time consuming process that usually happens right off stream lah. So at the end of the live stream, everything would kind of be gelled together the way that I like it, right? The way I feel the mix needs to go. Then it's usually a good time to take a ear break. Either I will come back, if this was during the day, I would usually go and take a little break, an hour or so, and then come back later to finish up to do all the fine-tuned stuff. Or in the case of being late at night, probably come back, right, fresh tomorrow, right, in the daytime to come and continue and do all the fine-tuned stuff. So, right, that is kind of sort of how the process goes lah. Phew, okay, sweet. And rock will never die, but phones will need charging. That indeed. Okay. So what else is happening in here? Let's take that. Oh, I'm still on Yahoo. Let me get out of my email. And how many more? 15 seconds? 14? Thank you so much, man, once again for tuning in so late. It's really appreciated, Chobib. All right. Not sure if anyone else is still there, or maybe they already gone to sleep or it fell asleep. That's okay, man. This is all right. Mixing live streams is not for everyone lah. Okay, I got to say that it is not for everyone, right? It's only a very few people who are nerdy enough to geek out over this and sit through hours and hours of doing that. I mean, I used to do that, when as I think you can relate as well. I used to do that as well when both of us used to work with Greg Henderson, and I would love just sitting at the back of the control room, just listening and just watching, be a fly on the wall, don't say anything, just listen and watch him mix, okay? Don't even interfere or ask questions. And there's so much things that I learned just from watching Greg, sitting at the back of the control room, watching him work. I not only Greg as well, I had the opportunity to sit beside Sun Sing of 101. And yeah, the opportunity to just sit behind people and watch them work is an incredible learning experience, man. So anyway, all right, let's go back to, resuming where we left off. Back in the, now we are going to come back into the creative stage. So let's listen back to the vocal. Okay, so this is just the plain vocal without double tracks, okay? So let me solo all these 4 double tracks so you hear how it sounds like. Okay, it's got that swirly phaser modulation thing. Okay, right, all right, obviously very unnatural. But the thing is that this is going to be blended in, right, with this main vocal. So there are actually many ways of doing this vocal thickening thing, right? And it's always something that, mixers always try to achieve. You can use chorusing, you can use delays, you can use modulation, you can use other kind of vocal double plugins as well. This is just kind of an old-fashioned, a long-winded way of doing it. But I feel that this kind of gives me a lot more flexibility because, right, I can control the balance of this as an actual audio track, and also you see it, I'm going to be EQing it later. So let's blend this guys in and let's unsolo it. Let's blend all the 4. Let's listen to it.
Pertemuan yang tidak disangka, cinta terus menikam jiwa, hatiku telah kau goda oleh pandangan yang.
So just very subtle, okay? Right. The goal isn't really to make that effect obvious, just to make that vocal slightly bigger, slightly fatter, a little bit more airy, right? Especially on the airs, the high end, right? And let's just solo it.
Tak dapat ku lupa.
Is without it, you just hear it dead center.
Kemana kau
And with it,
pergi.
it sounds just a little
Kau membawa
slightly wider.
hati-
Okay, so now this is where I'm gonna EQ it. Let's
hatiku.
just solo only this doubler. So now I can EQ this.
Walau seketika, cinta di hati hanya
So at about that 950, 960, there is that little pokes out a little bit, and
tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu kan ku ulang saja.
at about 3.6K. Okay, and we can take out, we don't really need all that super top end at 10K, okay? Copy the settings over to all the rest of the doubler tracks, okay? Ba-ba-da-ba-dum. All right, okay. And I said, yeah, oh yes, what a learning experience that was, okay? I'm Chobib says, agreed, okay. Well, thank you very much, okay? Let's see, let's link the 4 double tracks together, and later on, I may bring this up, animate it up and down. That's where, having these as audio tracks comes in handy.
Walau seketika.
Okay, now let's go back to that snare drum. Now, I feel like, again, in context, when you have more stuff going on, it needs a little bit more reverb. Just take out a little bit of this bottom.
Cinta terus menikam jiwa, hatiku telah kau goda.
All right, okay. Okay, let's saturate this snare a little bit. Okay, just to give it a little bit of more excitement. Again, set and don't forget, okay? So sometimes you need to go back to tweak with stuff. Snare-tacular. Yeah, I just need to bring out a little bit of that top end.
Cinta
Oh.
di hati hanya untukmu. Tiada
There you go.
mungkin dapat ku lupa.
Nice. Okay, now this is what we needed. Again, see, when the vocals come in, then it's really impossible to arrive at fix the mix decisions without knowing, right, what the overall picture is. So without having the vocal in, I did not know that I needed to, kind of, add a little bit of saturation to the snare and just to bring out a little bit more reverb. Because when you just mix drums on it by itself, you're just mixing a kick drum on its own, you're working on incomplete information. You are just, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, but you only have one piece of the puzzle. So how do you know what to do with it? You won't know, okay? That's why you need all the pieces in there, and you know, right, where, what needs to come next. So let me compensate this back down because it obviously made it louder. So
Saat ku bersamamu, kan ku ulang saja. Cinta itu hanya untukmu.
kind of gets slightly crunchy on the vocal on some of those notes. Let me listen to it.
Kan ku ulang saja. Cinta itu hanya untukmu.
Yeah, on the Cinta itu gets a little crunchy, so let me turn off that.
Kan ku ulang saja. Cinta itu.
Okay, yeah, that makes it a little better, but I think maybe the mix of the Virtual Tube collection can be backed off a little bit. Right. So in some notes, I think it is kind of overdriving it. So
Saja. Cinta itu hanya untukmu. Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa.
Yeah, okay. Just cleans it up a little bit, lah, right? So you still have the tube, right? That saturation there, but just back off a little bit on those upper harmonics, because I think on some of those notes and some of the syllables actually, right? The vowel sounds, maybe it will cause it to like sound a little crunchy, right? So we probably don't want that. So let's go back now. Creative side. Let's open up the vocal bus, right? Let's bring in 1176 again. Okay, I love this, man. Let's let's go to the chorus.
Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu, tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu.
Okay, let's swap it out, okay? Let's swap it out with an LA2A instead. So probably going for 1176 might be a little bit too aggressive in this case. So right, even though I love my 1176, sometimes that can be a little bit too aggressive for certain styles. So let's go with LA2A instead, right?
Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu.
So I'm no longer actually using these compressors for dynamic control, because we already achieved that, right? I already achieved that with the parallel processing. I already achieved that earlier on in the here. This is more for creative aspects, right? Yes, there is a little bit of dynamic control, but I'm not going for more than 1-2 dB in this case. I'm just going for more of just adding a little bit more tone to it. I feel maybe the LE2E can sort of soften out some of that upper harmonics or so.
Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu, kan ku ulang saja cinta itu.
Let's try something else actually, right? Which sometimes is really effective, but I don't use it all that often, but sometimes it really does, and that would be the Fairchild. Let's try it out on Naz's vocals, because maybe it needs that vintage vibe to it. So let's check it out. Okay, I probably need to bring the output down, and let's check it out.
Walau seketika
Okay, I'm gonna need to compensate it lah.
cinta di hati hanya untukmu, tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu, kan ku ulang saja cinta itu hanya untukmu, tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu, walau seketika.
In fact, I think I prefer the LE2 on it. A little more subtle. This one sounds still a little too obvious. Too much of that tube color to it.
Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu.
Okay, right. Let me try one more thing. Let's go with another one. Let's go with the anniversary edition, which is the 1176, but it's got a different, right? It's got a very different. It's got a 2-to-1 ratio instead of 4. So let's check this one out and see. Let's see how this goes. Okay, let's go with slowest run, fastest release.
Mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu, kan ku ulang saja cinta itu.
Okay, let's go in one more, all right? Let's experiment with something else, okay? And LE3A. It's unusual. I seldom use an LE3A, but maybe this is what is needed this time around.
Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu, tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu, kan ku ulang saja cinta itu.
Let's back off a little bit more on the let's back up a little bit more on the mix.
Hanya untukmu, tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu.
Interesting. Okay, I feel that the LE3A is kind of the cleanest on the lot because with a very strong vocal, right? You know, he's kind of having quite a lot of the upper harmonics already. You know, this very present voice, and when you get a very strong, good singer, so it does not need to bring it too much. I'd rather go with a clean. So the LE3A kind of interesting, all right? You know, compared to the 1176, LE2 Fairchild is a little bit too much color to it, to a little bit too much color. So LE3A it is then, all right? So not a usual choice that I would go for with vocals, but hey, you know, this is where mixing is all about. You got to try all the different combinations and find the one that works the best. Okay, so here we go. Now we need a second de-esser. There is sometimes with all the additional processing, right? A second de-esser would come in handy. So let's bring that in.
Cinta terus menikam jiwa hatiku, telah kau goda
Nice. Okay, let's bring in a little bit of pool tech.
oleh pandangan yang tak dapat ku lupa.
8K.
Kemana kau pergi, kau membawa hatiku
A little bit of attenuation.
ini. Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu, tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu,
Let me bring up a little bit of this double track.
kan ku ulang saja pertemuan yang tidak disangka.
Just a little bit.
Cinta terus menikam jiwa hatiku.
Very cool. Okay, so, right. Almost there. Okay, so now, what's the next thing I want to introduce? I want to bring in Vocal Rider. Vocal Rider. All right, okay. Please pardon me for my bad 80s cartoon references, okay? Here we go, right. So, here it is. Same like what Bass Rider does with Bass Rack. This one is geared and fine-tuned to work best with vocals. Similar concept. Set your range, set your target, set your reaction speed, and let the Vocal Rider do his job. So let's start with maybe the verse. Let's look for the target, okay?
Pertemuan yang tidak disangka. Cinta terus menikam jiwa hatiku, telah kau goda oleh pandangan yang tak dapat ku lupa. Kemana kau pergi, kau membawa
Beautiful.
hatiku ini. Walau seketika.
I like how smooth it is. Vocal Rider is a bit too smooth though, so later on, especially during the automation stage, right, I actually need to reintroduce and kind of recompensate back some of the vocal dynamics, right? Can be a little bit too good for its purposes. Okay, so now creative stage, we're almost there. So time to add a little bit of effects. So what I like to put first of all is I want to give this vocal sound as if it's sitting in a nice, expensive, wood studio with, wood walls and wooden floors and all that. So I'm going to use this one, Super Tap. This is a delay, but what it is sending, it is just going to be set to a single short delay, right? And no feedback because we are not listening for multiple delay taps, right? Delay echoes, just one single reflection, right, off the wall. But important thing is that this EQ section, right, we need to a low pass at 1.5K. So basically anything above 1.5K is all rolled off. So it's going to be fairly dark sounding, okay? Like how it would be like in a nice room. You don't have like all that bright, hard reflections. So this is just going to be blended in. I'll play it for you.
Pertemuan yang tidak disangka.
Okay, this is obviously exaggerated so you can hear how it sounds. I'll pull it back just to the point where you can just hear it in the room, okay?
Cinta terus menikam jiwa, hatiku telah kau.
And very important, listen in context, okay?
Pertemuan yang tidak disangka.
So a bit more.
Cinta terus menikam jiwa.
Right, at about minus 0.6.5, okay? Right, so there we go. This gives this, right, it places this vocal inside a room instead of like a dry sounding, right, live room. Kind of places it inside a bigger room than it is. Next one, a mono delay, right? So this is very important, very useful to create, the impression of front back depth. So I'm using BX delay from Brainworks. This is set to an 8th note, but let's keep it down to maybe a 16th note and let's check it out.
Menikam jiwa, hatiku telah kau goda oleh pandangannya.
It's almost got a bit of like a slight slap back to it.
Tak dapat
But let's go with, instead of 1/16, let's go with 1/8 triplet.
ku lupa kemana kau pergi.
Yeah, I think this works a little bit more interesting. Although typically I always either go for 8th or 16th, but this 8th note triplet kind of works a bit better because anyway of the 6/8 nature of the song, the tempo of the song,
Kau membawa
the time signature, okay, right? Then we get the right terminology, okay? Time signature.
hatiku ini, walau seketika.
So yeah, and if we want to get down into a rabbit hole, is this a 6/8 or is this a 12/8? And as I said, and the star sheriffs. All right, okay, there we go.
Cinta di hati hanya
Yeah, and with this triplet, it's rhythmically more interesting. Okay, very cool. So having that, now let's bring in a little bit of reverb. So, all right, reverb. Okay, this reverb, all right, will be my favorite EMT 140. Right. And this is pretty much how I usually would set it already, right? Especially with male vocals. But let's try it out. Let's just try it out and see. Let's just blend it in. Okay, here we go.
Pertemuan yang tidak disangka,
There you go.
cinta terus menikam jiwa, hatiku telah kau goda.
And by the way, I totally forgot about the plucking guitar, but it works in context now, okay?
Oleh pandangan yang
Okay, so I want to sort of experiment with, play around with the pre-delay time. So let me just solo this. Okay, I need to solo that along with the lead vocal. Hello, lead vocal, where are you? Okay, vocal is there, and there we go.
kam jiwa, hatiku telah kau.
Okay, I need to exaggerate the reverb for a second, okay?
Pertemuan yang tidak disangka, cinta terus menikam jiwa, hatiku telah kau goda. Oleh pandangan yang tak dapat ku lupa, kemana kau pergi, kau membawa hatiku ini, walau seketika, cinta di hati hanya untukmu, tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa, saat ku bersamamu kan ku.
Yeah, so a little bit of I needed to dial in that pre-delay amount so that you get a little bit kind of a slapback so that the reverb kind of comes in. It would come in like, you know, on the one beat after.
Ku ulang saja, pertemuan yang tidak disangka.
Yep, the unsankerable meeting. Okay, now let me EQ the reverb. Okay, a little bit of that low end. That mid-range build up actually, 500, 600 hertz. Let me just get it out. A bit of nasally and the honkiness at about 900. And
Kau pergi, kau membawa hatiku ini, walau seketika.
all right, okay, lovely. Okay, I need to put some of this a little bit in context first because this verse is a little bit loud. So I am gonna just quickly drop this down about 2 dB.
Pertemuan yang tidak disangka,
So it needs to be about 2 dB down actually.
cinta terus.
And this is actually a good part of the mix where I will probably swap over to my smaller pair of speakers. I have a pair of Yamaha NS10s, alright, so I'm going to switch over to that right now. You're of course not going to hear it, well, only me inside here, so bear with me in a second, okay?
Menikam jiwa, hatiku telah kau goda. Oleh pandangan yang tak dapat ku lupa.
Alright, okay, now another thing that I'm going to, again, alright, mixing is not a linear process. I want to jump back to the bass one more time. So remember that EQ, that 800 hertz EQ I did? It's not necessary for this quiet part, okay? So I'm going to, let's bypass this and let's just automate this EQ. So for the intro, you need it. In fact, probably not. Yeah, I want the guitar to sort of... So it will only kick in during the chorus. When you know you got a lot more of those. Okay, let's arm it. Yeah, alright, so, right, that EQ boost, that 800 EQ boost, only need it in the chorus lah. So, do 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 do. So there we go. Do 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 do. Right, there we go. And probably all the way to the rest of the song. There you go. Because during this verse now, then that 800, you know, sounds starting a bit honky, you know, a little, the bass starts sounding a bit too growly and honky. That's not really the tone we're going for. So where were we? -2 dB. Back to reverb, just a tiny touch down. Nice. And then chorus kicks in. Right, so, yeah, so just broad strokes first. Okay, now, next thing. So, one of the key things in mixing or in songwriting and arrangement in general, you'll be interested to know that it is so intricately tied together to arrangement. It's so intricately tied together to songwriting that, you know, mainly the goal in the end is you want to get a reaction from the listener. You want them to sing along. You want them to dance, right? Be, you know, some kind of a positive reaction. So in order to do that, you have to keep on propelling the listener forward. And it comes from songwriting, it comes from the arrangement. I would say actually a big proportion actually comes from the arrangement, right, rather than the mixing. But in the mix as well, we can always propel things forward. So always constantly creating dynamics here, okay? So now one of the ways, obviously in arrangement, we do that, right? Arrangement-wise, you can see, right, how in the verses is a little bit sparse, it builds, and then, right, full on in the chorus. So in mixing, we're going to do the same with this vocal. So in the verses, right, it's been a mono delay up the center. But what I like to do when you hit the chorus, right, is to bring in, right, a stereo delay. In fact, I might even automate, right, the some of the double tracks to be a little bit more upfront as well. So let's check it out. Let's do it first with the stereo delay. Oops, here we go. Now I'm going to switch back to the big speakers, because it's easier to hear the reverbs and the delays on big speakers, right? There we go, right? All right, okay, cool. All right, so this is another interesting trick to build dynamics into it, you see. So you have a mono delay up in the verse. Then when the chorus kicks in, boom, right? Vocal sounds a bit wider. The delays also kind of spread towards the, you know, the left and right. You introduce a stereo delay along with BVs, all the guitars and all instrumentations. That creates the payoff in the chorus, you see. That's what the listener wants. So let's just automate this. Probably on the word ketika. Just back off maybe just 1 dB, but again the piano and all that's not there yet, so we don't know, is he? Okay, right. So that's the overall, right? That's the creative aspect, all right? Corrective aspect early on, right? Remove all the warts and all the ugliness from whatever the unwanted stuff that we don't want from the vocal, and then we can apply all the creative stuff later. Let's move on. Next thing, okay? Next part, I would love to drop in again because it's such a vocal driven song, right? I would go with the BBs. Okay, so BBs first, and let's check it out. Okay, starting with. Here we go. Okay, let me turn off some of the effects first so that I just hear it dry. All right, and the amazing thing is that these BBs were all recorded, 4 of them together, all together in one go. Like the way we used to do it, man, old-fashioned way. Okay. Okay, just get rid of a bit of the build-up at 480. There's a bit at 940. Take out a bit of, we can take out maybe, 15K. Oh no, that's not 15K. 15K, yeah, there we go. Let's take out all the top end. We don't really need it. Let's copy this over BV1, BV1, because these are the same parts. Let's mute it and let's check it out. Let me turn off, okay? Turn off all this first.
Walau seketika, cinta di hati hanya untukmu. Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu. Kan ku ulang saja.
Yeah, in fact, actually, let's not take out that 15K. Let's bring that in. I think we. Beautiful, okay? So this next set of harmonies will be. Okay, right, cool. These are like the higher parts. So let me just tuck this in, the unison parts to 75.
Cinta di hati untukmu, untukmu, tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa.
One more time.
Walau seketika,
Mid honk.
cinta di hati
1.6K, a bit of build up there.
untukmu, untukmu.
Okay, right. So since these are like the the high parts, these can be hard pan left right. Let's link the two together. Balance it in.
Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu. Kan ku ulang saja. Cinta itu hanya untukmu.
Nice. Okay, and we probably have this one, the third harmony.
Walau seketika.
Okay, right, as I expected, this would be the low part. Okay, high pass. Don't need everything above 100.
Cinta di hati
So,
untukmu,
bit of resonance 700.
untukmu, tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa samamu. Ulang saja.
At about 6.7, interestingly. Maybe because sometimes you have four vocalists. All right, it sounds good. All right. So each of these parts are doubled, right? Left, right, left, right. Okay, and this mid one, of course, can be, only needs to be panned 50-50. So generally speaking, all right, if you talk about backing vocals and how many parts, if you want it to be spread wider, the higher parts, right, higher register notes, you keep them as far as wide as possible. And the lower the register, right, you want to keep it in the middle as possible. This is if you want to achieve maximum width. There's no right or wrong saying that you can't pan everything hard left, hard right. You can do that as well. It's also fine. Or if you want to keep your highs towards the middle, also, again, there's no hard and fast rule. It depends on what you want, what you prefer, what you like. Okay, here we go. Let's blend it in.
Walau seketika, cinta di hati hanya untukmu.
All right, very cool. So let me actually take out this reverb first, and we solo the entire group.
Walau seketika.
All right, so a bit of build up here and there, especially when you have all 6 tracks together. Let's build up around 1K, that 1K region. Okay, so just use the default settings. Again, same again, dynamic EQ. Again, this one 2:1 ratio, a little bit more gentle, because it does not need to be that aggressive lah.
Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa samamu.
Okay, there's another one. Right, so around 500 hertz, we need to, again, same thing. Let's just tuck it out of the way. This is a much narrower one. Back to the bypass. Nice. I didn't want it to step over into the main vocal, so that's why I needed to bring that up. Okay, so one thing that I really love on these BVs, and I've been using this quite a bunch, this is the Untitled H3000, and it's good old the Ultra Harmonizer. Man, I remember using this back in the ICOM days. We used to have one. And, again, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Once you get out of the analog studio and then start working with computers, then you start realizing and missing that, oh man, I had such really good gear last time, working in the studio. But anyway, this is thankfully they have now made the recreation of this lah. Okay, and let's go with this one, DVD's BVs. Very good BV setting, right? So. Beautiful. So that's nice little slap back kind of effect. Straight away places the BVs into a room, into this nice spacey room, right? Beautiful. Okay, so it probably needs, and with BVs as well, vocal rider is also very, 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 very effective. So again, let's go with smooth ride, which is the gentlest setting. One more time. Okay, let's turn on the LE2A. Let's listen.
Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya.
Alright, okay. You're gonna need to have to de-ess this a little bit, especially when you have a lot of vocals. So this one I kind of gone for this very airy, silky, right, backing vocal sound, which I think it needs it, because what this basically, right, the lead vocal is kind of taking like the mid-range, and there's just this little sides, right, for the BVs to take. So this is basically what they're doing, just to, you know, just to kind of tuck it in a little.
Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu, kan ku ulang saja. Ulang saja. Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu. Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu. Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu, kan ku ulang saja.
Okay, some automation gonna be needed, right? Probably in the choruses, the snares and all that need to go up. Let's automate it a little.
Pergi, kau membawa hatiku ini. Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu. Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu, kan ku ulang saja. Cinta itu hanya untukmu.
Okay, might be a little bit too silky there. Let's go with this.
Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu.
Yeah, let's go with this.
Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu. Tiada mungkin.
Okay, yeah, that works a little bit better. When it's too silky, hey, you know, you're getting that Mariah Carey, modern R&B pop kind of, probably not appropriate for this style, okay? Okay, very cool. So, where are we? Let's go back. Let's go back now to, let's quickly go through some of the pianos. And again, like I said, at the end of this live stream, it's not the full complete, it's far from being the final. I would say it's probably 80% of the way, right? So it's impossible to showcase the entire thing all in one shot, because again, it's good. Oh, a lot of the automation needs to take place later on, one by one, and there's no way for me to show it right in the time frame that's allowed within the live stream lah. So let's quickly go through the rest of the tracks. Let's go to piano first of all. So this piano is playing this very, very cool retro retro piano. Here we go. How do I describe it? Yeah, this is a cool piano, like a doo-wop, you know, 50s, 60s thing. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, right. So with pianos, I don't like to, right, don't really like them to be spread super, super far apart. You don't want the sound like the piano is like 20 feet wide. And very simple, just doesn't need much. LE2A sounds good already. Just heavily compress it. It's got a bit of ambience already, so again, nice, okay. Ding, 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 ding. Let's deal back with, I said just now, I forgot about the plucked acoustic guitars. And this is where I love to use MV2, okay? MV2 is really great on a lot of stuff. It's very good on plucked instruments, very good on lead lines as well. So let's check this out. MV2, mono. So again, this brings out a lot of the low level details. So in this case, when you're plucking, it brings out the sustain, that note, the definition of the pluck notes. It brings out things such as, again, low level stuff such as the transient stuff, such as maybe the nail, the finger, the transient of the finger on the pluck, or the pick on the strings. When whether you're plucking or whether you're with finger, or if you're using a flat pick, either way, it brings out all those details. So that's all. There we go. So maybe just at 1K it pokes out a little. And there you have it. Let's just duplicate the settings first, right? Although I know it's not the same, but it's just for starters, okay? It's actually dynamically a little bit more interesting to keep it on one guitar. I think we debated this, right? If correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? We actually debated whether do we want to keep the acoustic guitars single or not. But let's just keep both for now in timing and see how it fits. Directly arrangement wise, it's a little bit more interesting to have one guitar though instead of a double track. But let's just play around with it and see. Okay, let's bring in the high. Okay, also yeah, take out a little bit of that 3K.
Cinta terus menikam jiwa, hatiku telah kau goda oleh pandangan yang tak dapat ku lupa. Kemana kau pergi, kau membawa.
The reason being because the piano having that high, having all these having two guitars though. I'll just keep the high because it's kind of stepping over on the piano chords. Okay, then. Yeah, I'll keep the high mixed down really low. Interesting. Very nice. Okay, let's get in the second piano, which is kind of holding down the chords, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so just very basic. About 1.2. Yeah, so around 1.2, it's got a couple of resonances here. You just cut it down. Again, this would probably give space for the vocal. Right? Give a little bit space for the vocal. This one gives a little bit more sustain to this. Yeah, just a little bit. Take away some of the transient, right? Just give it a bit more sustain.
Walau seketika, cinta di hati hanya untukmu. Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu. Kan ku ulang saja cinta itu.
Alright, very sweet. Pads. Let's bring in the pads. And so these pads coming in the second half of the verse. Check it out. Right, so pads are a good candidate for, right, similar thing. I would drop in the same thing except that I have this multiband compressor on. It's set to an expander. It's basically doing an expander, right? Take away all the bottom end, and very useful. I'm gonna add some stereo spread to it, and the good one, a nice one to use would be the good old Waves S1. Okay, S1 is here. Imager, such an old plugin, but it just works great. 1.5, 1.5. And just to add to the right ambience-ness, if there's such a proper word, will be Valhalla Supermassive. Okay, right. This one, right, I have to credit the Darren was the one who, turned me on into this. So let's go with, right, a synth verb. Let's check the mix. Oh, beautiful. This helps to push with pads and some of these keyboard parts. It's okay to kind of push it a little bit wider. So even if we go slightly out of phase in solo, but in context, right, it actually helps. Let's listen to it. Actually, it would be more interesting if we mute that. It would be a bit more interesting to just edit it there. So and I'll mute it, right? Because and I'll automate down because there's actually a reverb tail. Right? Let's do it now. There we go. Just automate like automate can. Right, okay. Automate like a mixer can. Automate. Alright. Just drop it out. Maybe a little bit longer. Right, so maybe it drops out on 10, 1, 2, 3 on the 3, 20.5. So it drops out here. Yeah, a little more natural sounding there. Okay, this is a good point. Like at this stage, I would probably want to take a look at my stereo bus processing. So I have an AUC's air EQ here, just doing a little bit of a tiny air, just a little bit of air here. This Wave C4 stereo, right? What this does, this is set to multi-opto mastering. So on all these 4 bands, the only thing that this is doing is just to make sure that no particular frequency range jumps out too much. Let's just try it out and just bring the threshold down. So you just want this to dance by the minimal amount. That's all I want to do. Very minimal, just barely moving, okay? Okay, now time to bring in a little bit of the bus compression. So I've set these guys up, right? This is an FG Gray, which is an SSL, FG Red, Focusrite, FG Mu is a Fairchild. This chain here, right, I'm just going to get each of them to just work very, very lightly. Not more than 1 dB, okay? Right, okay, right. Mostly, again, most of these are static mixes. Some of the piano parts, maybe I need to automate it up and down. Okay, let's bring in this clean guitar. So this is like a, this is like a classic R&B, chuck, I'll play it and you'll know what it is. Here we go. Chuck. There you go. It's got a bit of modulation to it. And what works great with it would be the LE3. LE3 actually is really, really good for clean guitars. Or electric guitars for that matter. It's got some interesting digital artifact noise in there, but in context it shouldn't be an issue. Should not be an issue at all. Let's make sure that this is going to music. Okay, right, so now we're going to find the center of power for this. Okay, whoops, okay. Apologize for headphone users, right? That might be a little bit bright. Right, so I needed to just to emphasize a little bit of that 1.8K range. Very lovely. Okay, now let's go with, right? Some of the string parts. I think the string parts are mainly. And hello, where are the strings? Okay, strings are not assigned to the strings. That's why. Let's assign them to the strings. Right, just for a little bit of motion. Let's blend these in, okay? Let's load in. Now for strings, similarly, I think I showed you just now with the pads. So it is same, upward compression, right? Just to control, just bring out again. With strings, it's tricky, especially in pop and rock mixes, because it's hard, you know, they have to compete with all that wall of guitars there. So we need a little upward compression to bring down some of the, like the lower detail stuff, okay? So let's EQ out all the bottom. We don't need. Okay, and if I take out all the 4K. $2K as well. Alright, okay, that helps to smoothen things out a little bit. So now on the strings group, right, there's a strings group here. Let me just load in some of my typical string processing group strings. There we go. Right. So there's an LE2A again, just to give it a little bit of slightly smoothing. And very useful, an EMT140 reverb. So let's cut this reverb down, set the input filter to about 125 Hertz. Don't need all that bottom information. Okay. And
Walau seketika, cinta di hati hanya.
take a listen. Right, some automation needed. Okay, as usual, let's check out string 2. This one is. Alright, oops, oh, that's not the right processing. Never mind, we can always process it again. Mix strings, same thing. Cut out all the bottom end that we don't need. Okay. Also around 2-3K. Yeah, at around 2K, right? Take out some of the top end. We don't really need all that top end there. Alright, let's check it out. Let's check the bottom. Yeah, this actually serves to function more as the low cello parts and the high strings. So maybe for easier separation, let's go into the combined panner and let's be a little bit more aggressive, okay, with it. So not everything needs to occupy the full left-right spectrum, you know. Not every part needs to. It just makes for a cluttered mix. So maybe this will help to separate it a little bit better. Okay, right. So for the intro guitar, it's only coming up the center. So let's automate that also. Okay. Nice. Okay, let's re-automate the guitars back.
Cinta terus menikam jiwa, hatiku telah kau.
And we're almost there. So that's the strings. Now, last but not least, let's check out the lead guitars. Okay, so let's go to maybe the solo section because that's where the most important part is. Lead guitars. All right, super. So let's bring in, as usual, tape and console emulation. Let's check it out. So this goes to the solo group. Okay, and escape. Right. So a lot of these leads, right, were actually done by Chobib himself back home, and some, it's going to be hard to recreate the vibe and the feel of this. So this was recorded with the good old, if I'm not mistaken, Chobib was recorded with the good old Line 6 pod, right? Still, right? Still an incredible piece of equipment after so many years. And this is where MV2 is also really good at bringing out all the details, especially when it comes to solo and lead lines and lead fills, because you have all the intricate, you need to bring out all the articulation. MV2 with the low level, all right, compression, that segment, this is where it helps to bring out, all right, all these low detail parts. So let's crank it up. It's gonna go loud for obvious. Okay, but what I hear is things like the pick attack, right? All the transient, the low level information stuff gets emphasized, right? It's not just a matter of just compression, right? It's things like that I'm trying to listen for. Almost there. Some things will need to be automated, definitely, right? The vocal will need to drop down. Some of the keyboard parts, and maybe the distortion guitar parts also, maybe just need to drop down, maybe a dB or so, right? Just to give the lead, the solo a little bit more prominence. Okay, but for solo, to add a little bit of dimension, this one I've been using for a long time. I love using this, Multiply, specifically only for guitars, or lead lines for that matter. So, right, just this little blend, so it will give you a blend of the dry signal, which is whatever the original signal is, and then this affected level. So in fact, I think for this I want to go with something a little different. I want to go with a little bit of stereo enhancement to it. So let's check it out. Maybe not, okay? It's making it a little too spready, okay? So, okay, maybe let's keep it back to what I usually use. Yeah, especially when you get to the fast passages, when it's a little bit too stereo spread out of phase, you kind of lose a bit of definition. Yeah, it's a little bit better when it's kept a little bit center lah, right? There we go. So again, all this needs to be automated. Okay, overall strings, right, we'll usually need a little bit of 3K down, around between the 2-3K range, a wide Q. Now I'm going to back the strings down for now, okay, but you know, parts like the intro, these strings will need to be automated a little bit more, you know, I need to bring the marcato and staccato parts up lah. Right, but just for automation's sake here. Alright, okay, gotta keep the solo lead guitar slightly to the left and only and when you bring it to the center when you get to the actual chorus. Alright, okay, so mainly just keep it there, and only when we kick into the last chord and outro solo, let's bring it back dead front and center. Nice. All right. So there we go. I think this is a pretty good place to sort of wrap everything up right now. Well, I will just maybe do a few more other tricks which I would usually do. Let me just showcase. This is a good stage where to sort of wrap up, I've got pretty much the entire rhythm section, the main vocals, and as I said early on, these are all just the broad stroke automation moves for now. To really go into all the nitty-gritty detail, right, I need to automate all those parts up and down, the vocal lines up and down here and there, instrumental parts, all that. It's going to take a long while. It's usually at the mixing stage where you get to about the 3-hour mark where it's good time to actually take an ear break. So that's what I'm going to do, okay? Take a little short ear break, then, you know, come back and continue it the next day. All right, so we are pretty much there. Let me just show you and just wrap up with two more other things. The first one would be just a little bit of automation on the choruses, right? So, and one of the things that I like to do is, right, just to give it again, right, you want to drive the listener forward, is just to automate the stereo bus, okay? So this happens here. Okay, so what we do is we arm the master stereo fader, and then before we get the chorus, you ramp it up just a dB, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. All right, okay. So these are just tiny subtle things that you do.
Walau seketika cinta di
Interesting. I think I want to pull this snare back down to where it was earlier.
hati hanya untukmu. Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu. Kan ku ulang saja cinta itu hanya untukmu. Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu. Walau seketika.
Okay, hang on a second. Okay, maybe this might not be the best spot for it because arrangement-wise, it doesn't feel like it needs to be bumped up there yet. So maybe here.
Untukmu saat ku bersamamu. Walau seketika.
Okay, maybe this very last chorus here.
Walau seketika cinta itu hanya untukmu. Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa aku bersamamu. Walau seketika.
Sweet. Okay. Right. So those are one of the things that you can do. The very common trick is to bump up the master volume at every chorus. Right. This gives the illusion that hey, suddenly the chorus just gets a little bit bigger, a little bit more exciting. Padahal the only thing that's happening is just a 1 dB bump up in the volume. And let's wrap it up with one more thing that I usually add, right? That I been playing around a lot with, I use a lot, is the SPL iron. So this is again been one of my favorite stuff that's on my master bus. This is it's a mastering processor, but I am using a setting which is actually an MS processing mid side. So what it does is just adds a subtle bit of widening to the whole thing. All right, just makes everything separated a little bit better. When you turn off this output compensation, I need to turn this down to compensate for it. Let me just check it out. Bypass without.
Hanya untukmu. Mungkin dapat ku lupa saat ku bersamamu. Kan ku ulang saja.
Okay, vocal might need to come up a little bit more. And right now I'm listening back to an instance, right? And again, automation, man. There's going to be a lot of automation that's needed. So that was SPL Iron and API 560. This is stuff which I like to put some additional, sauce lah, right, today.
Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untukmu. Tiada mungkin dapat ku lupa.
Very cool. All right, so I guess let's wrap this live stream up, man. Right? It's already coming up past 12:30, 12:40 onwards. And I super appreciate, right? Whoever's still hanging around. Okay, right. So there we go. This is would be, I would say again, the first draft of the mix. Let's listen back to the track, the whole thing. And once again, thank you so much for watching. To everyone who tuned in earlier, right? Abang Chobib, right? Naza, who was here as well, Shafiq, Ali, Zaidi, and Super Tikus, right? Who is this Super Tikus, man? That's an interesting track there. And Fahmi as well. Fahmi, the mix engineer. That's very cool. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right. If you found this useful, informative, please do leave your like. Okay. Down below, questions, comments. I always love to hear from you. Whether you're watching this now or later on, right? I would love to hear from you as well. Please do check out the rest of the content on my channel. If you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. Again, head on down if you want to support the creation of content, right, such as more live streams such as this and all the videos that I'm doing. Please head on down to my Patreon page. Link is down in the description. Artist description is down below as well. Stay tuned, right, for the rest of the album. That's going to be come out pretty soon. Okay, so thank you so much, and let's listen to, right, I would say the first draft of the mix of Walau Seketika. Here we go. Play back. And drums.
Pertemuan yang tidak disangka. Cinta.
Yeah, even some of the snare probably needs to be automated, in the intro as well.
Pandangannya tak dapat ku lupa. Kemana kau pergi, kau membawa hatiku ini. Walau seketika cinta di hati hanya untuk.
Oh, getting a little glitchy there. Yeah. Again, vocal automation is going to be needed. I'm going to make sure that the main vocal stays on top of everything, and the electric guitar also needs to kind of come down on certain parts, as long as while it's interplaying with the lead vocal. Yeah, especially at this part. Okay, yeah, it's getting a little glitchy. I might need to have to turn off one or two of the plugins. Let me turn off the UAD. Ba-da-ba-ba. And then back to the big intro. Second chorus. Again, amazing performance, man. Thanks to everyone. Shout out to all the musicians that were on this project. Okay, folks. So let's call it a night. All right. Thank you so much again for watching. And Zachariah, hey Zach. Oh, were you tuning in all along? It's been a long time, I know. I haven't done one of these mix streams in quite a long while. Zachariah is one of our patrons. So thank you so much for your support, man. Haven't seen you in a while. Glad to see you again. I hope we can catch up soon. Hey, let us know if you want to do any of those one-on-one sessions again. All right, just let me know, okay? All right, so let's wrap it up, and thank you so much. See you again in another video real soon. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. Happy recording and mixing. Peace, love, and music.